G'day everyone. I've got a little bit of vision here to go through that might show some of the main things that we need to focus on at Geelong VFL level and explain some of the things that I think are really important teaching and coaching points for young players. But before I start all of that, just thanks very much for coming along tonight. It's been amazing the groundswell of support for women's footy in Geelong. To all of you that have been involved for a long time, thank you very much for keeping it afloat, and sometimes it's a bit embarrassing to feel like I just jumped on this train that's actually been going for a long time, and we're forgetting about the people who have kept it alive for so long. But well done to everyone that's just jumped on board. It's amazing. Personally, I've never had as much fun in footy in 30 years of being involved because my players and the people that support them are just so keen to help, to learn, and so grateful for everything that they get to do. So the coaching's been a breeze, and thanks to some really generous fixturing at the start of the year too, we've had some success, but it's going to get hard pretty soon. I think in our competition there's some pretty good players. How many of you are doing this for the first time, women's footy? Okay, so a few, yeah, me too. No worries. And how many have been to one of the level 1 courses that I've been at already this year? So 3 or 4, okay, a few familiar faces, no worries. I've got one clip that I want to show that you might have seen already, but the rest of the stuff's new from our games earlier this year. One thing that I like to talk about whenever I talk to any new groups about women's footy is to do with the people that you probably run into at work or at family barbecues and stuff like that want to say women's footy doesn't look that good. Has anyone had that yet about the AFLW? And, what are you doing with girls' footy? They're just banging into each other and killing each other. People don't understand it or are not thinking about what the girls are doing now compared to where they'll be. But it's really important, I think, that we understand it too so we can coach them safely. So because girls have got fitter at AFL level than they've ever been before, they've been able to get strength and conditioning coaching from experts like Mon and physio stuff from experts like George that get them fit, fast, healthy and back on the field quicker than ever. There's never been female athletes that can go as fast and hit as hard as they can do now. They're getting coached from different angles, from behind the goals vision and things like that, and they're getting defence really rammed at them from a team aspect. So the girls are fit and strong and fast and being taught to defend, which is a lot easier to teach than how to attack. And so the game's messy because they're so keen, they're on TV, they're trying really hard, and they've never had to attack through a level of defence that exists now. So obviously they can't do it right now. They will in time, but when you look at AFL men's footy, we always talk about young players needing 25, 50 games before they find their feet. And we've got a whole competition full of women's players that haven't had their 25 and 50 games yet. So it's going to happen. It's going to be really exciting. The attack's going to catch up into the defence. The people that are getting grumpy about it at the moment, they're not seeing the big picture and being a bit impatient. But you guys are going to be at the forefront of helping that happen and turning the game into a great one for lots of people to play for a long time. The issues that we identified sort of through some feedback from this group and with Katie that I'll cover today are ground balls, kicking and using your numbers, using an outnumber around the ball. And then one other thing that I just thought of today is team defence. So we've just got one clip from the Cats' actual preview against Adelaide today. There's no Crows supporter in here, is there? I hope not. Probably wouldn't admit it anyway this week. But there's just a little bit of vision from our prep against the Crows that shows Geelong's team defence. I want to talk about that because our girls have latched onto it much quicker than the boys do because a lot of them come from netball, basketball backgrounds where they're used to defending in some sort of system and a formation. I think it's a real advantage and opportunity to grow quickly. But get onto that in a few minutes. Katie, can we just maybe knock these front lights off? Yeah, beauty. Okay, so I want to talk about ground balls and ground ball technique for a minute. So one of the scariest things obviously is head injuries in footy. So I just want to show some examples of some things that our players are getting right and not so right, and maybe some ways to correct them, and then maybe talk about a few drills. So super conditions for us at Craigiebird on the weekend. This is just after half time. The rest of the year's been really good, but that wasn't so good. But it brought obviously some new challenges with it. So the young player in the middle, 19-year-old Lily Mithen, is now picking up that ground ball there. Her technique is outstanding. She's got a long history playing footy with boys and girls and being a great player, and played really well with Melbourne over the summer. So Lily there has turned her body to put her back in between her opponent and the ball. If we're not teaching our girls to do that yet, can we please invest some time in it really quickly? That's the number one way to keep them safe. All right, if you get a push in the back, you get a free kick, fantastic. You don't get hit in the head, even better. So Lily's doing that really well. Maybe could have got a free kick there, but we won the ball anyway. This is the fault I'm seeing. Sorry, that's terrific from Hannah as well. Same thing. Brilliant job. In between her opponent and the ball. Turns her body. Hannah's played ultimate frisbee. That's her 3rd game of footy ever. And she's learnt that already. So she's an Australian ultimate frisbee representative. She won a national title in April, then walked away from the sport, which was not a bad way to do it. Stops on the ball, turns her body. See how she's low, strong in that position. 1 foot either side of the ball. Outstanding technique. That's what she's good at because she's a great runner. She's powerful in that position and hacks the ball forward. The next player, Michelle Delhi, she's played a lot of footy. She's tall and lean and not really built for getting low. Struggling in these conditions to get under the ball. So 3 sort of contrasting techniques, but it's really imperative that the girls get under the ball so they can eventually pick it up. So we talk a lot about getting grass in your fingernails. Make sure that you're right down low in the grass, and it's so much easier to come up with the ball than it is to go down, miss it, and go back down again. So the key is to give the girls the confidence to stay low until they get the ball. A really important technique. Once we do win it, we're a good chance to score. Krista Woodruff played a lot of footy. Same thing for Krista here, in low and under the ball. So see that? Hands just not quite underneath it. Krista's played a lot, but the girls don't face this situation very often where they're running forward and the ball's going forward as well. This is a new one, so it's important to practice this technique from a variety of different angles. So she's pretty brave and strong and withstands the contact. Lily there, ball going away from her. Lots of practice. Bounces up a bit nicer too, but gets low and uses it. Hannah again, blocking. This is my favourite one of the season, so I'm going to take my time with this one. Cassie Blakeway, number 4, played heaps of footy in Bendigo. She's a real sort of seasoned pro, you'd say, in footy speak. Outstanding. So she turns away from the pressure after she takes the ball. So she realises that contact is coming, she can see that. Strong position, gets the ball under her face, head over it, and then spins away from it. So we had all the VFL girls practice that at the training session last night, just on a bumping bag. Had great fun. It's an important technique to practice because a lot of our girls come from backgrounds, netball, basketball, whatever, where they've got really fast feet. They can do this really well. We just have to show them the technique. Final one there. So Elise has probably been our best player the last 3 games. Elise Strawn, played with Melbourne, awesome athlete, basketball background. In basketball, the ball normally bounces back up to her. So she's still learning that one. So you'll have lots of athletes that cross over from different sports that have the attributes for footy, but just need to get taught those skills and practice with the ball. Same there for Danny. Maddie's played a lot, gets under, wins a free kick. So different techniques. Nice and low, take your time. If you need to stop, that's okay. Just to show that the tall girls can do it. So fantastic there, number 7, Cassie Hines. Fantastic athlete, stops, 1 foot either side of the ball. Able to handle it safely to a teammate. Gets a bit messy. Hannah Teague, that's power. So Mon's done so much work in the gym with our girls in this position, practicing being strong, doing their squats and things like that. Anna's there, protects the footy, gets her backside in between the opponent, protects her teammate, sends the ball on. So just some examples of ground balls and what works and what doesn't. But we have done that since day one. We were really fortunate that AFLW was starting just at the time when our pre-season was starting, or we could see some of the things that were happening there, and we got 3 or 4 months to work on those techniques before the girls had to play. But every single session we're working on ground balls, inside or outside, whatever it is. And quite simply, everyone got a bump bag at their clubs or If not, I know that AFL Barwon can help you source them, but someone's on a bump bag, standing there, hold the bag, roll the ball at them, person just leans with the bag, and the girls practice coming into that bag, stepping over the ball, hip hits the bag first, pick the ball up, give it to someone else, or spin off and run away, whatever you want. Really simple, but it's a technique that takes a lot of practice, because it's okay to do this on a bag 10 times in a row at training, but sometimes the bag's there, so you've got to do this. Sometimes it's coming from the front, so you start like that and you need to turn around. So you've got to give the girls confidence at all those different angles and walk through the techniques. And the bag doesn't need to hit them hard, but then you can move on, and then eventually we've got to get to the stage where we take the bag away, and they're doing that just against an opponent who you might put 8 metres away, so they've got plenty of time to see where the opponent's coming from, still turn their body and get safe and feed it, and then eventually 1 or 2 or 3 opponents, and they've just got to make the right decision based on ball and pressure and where they're coming from. So you stage all that when you teach it to the girls and take your time, but for their safety, it just has to happen. With young guys that have grown up playing the game from sort of 5 and 6 years of age, they're beating each other up. They kind of learn that because they don't like getting beaten up if they want to play footy for a long time. But some of the girls are a little bit oblivious to it at this stage, and now that their opponents are getting stronger, faster, fiercer, they're going to do more damage if we don't skill them up. Okay, well the next thing I wanted to talk about is kicking, and in particular with kicking, it's getting back behind the mark and having the players organise their feet. So that's one thing that you can practice and think about really easily. So when you take a mark, you get 6 seconds. Often longer than that before the umpires remember to start counting, unless it's 30 seconds at the end of the game at Simmons Stadium. But for the most part, you get your 6 seconds and it turns into more, and the player's in control. So it's really important they recognise that and we can make the most of it. But what we find a lot is a lot of our errors come from players rushing too quickly and not getting their feet organised. So at AFL level for years, our guys have been doing heaps of footwork drills to help them be more efficient in their kicking, right, in their step and their evasion, and help them get organised faster. So that's really important. Mon might touch on some of that footwork stuff later with the physical stuff, but it's so important with kicking. In a minute, we're going to see a friend Cassie Blakeway win a free kick for being brave again with her ground ball. And she goes back and kicks this goal. I just want to go through her technique. So this is elite from here. So she's a long way back behind the person on the mark. She gives herself a good run up, every single chance to kick the ball a long way. And she can kick it hard and she scores the goal. It's a great kick. Plenty of room to get her foot through and get under it. Like, fantastic kick. Because she's having a shot for goal, she's really thought hard about her technique. So often in our games and the games I'm seeing at local level, if a player like Cass or anyone else marks this in the middle of the ground, they don't take that space, they don't take that time. Obviously you get 30 seconds for that kick and only 6 for one around the ground. So it's a bit different. About to see a mark taken in a minute, so sometimes these clips are a bit long. So Brooke Surgeon, really good defender for us, has played footy for a little while, but never at this speed. So Brooke's taken 10 steps there, but none of them were backwards. So we see this a lot. So because of that, when she goes to kick it, she's laying back and she has to kick that ball in the air. It's her only option to really get it over number 45, who didn't even mark the mark that much, but really affected Brooke's kick. And this is often the flow-on effect. The other team get ages to see it and get it. So I've got a little clip I'll show right at the end for a way that we're trying to get around that. But most importantly, we need Brooke to get back 5 or 6 more steps from there. Happens a lot for us, unfortunately, at the moment. Just in game day, like, people forget. So we train a lot, we need to bring it out more in the games. If she does go back, so instead of having to kick over the person on the mark and lay back, she can be back further and kick flat, or she's got time to get around, kick on the 45-degree angle, flat and hard both ways. And it makes a huge difference, as we'll see in a couple of clips coming up. So that little handball doesn't mean a lot, doesn't go very far, but it's brilliant for Maddie now, who has the ball, to be able to kick it flat. So this player, also named Maddie, would have had to kick over a person on the mark, kick high. Maddie's able to kick flat because of that handball, gives her a chance to kick it out in front of that player who can't get spoiled. So it'd be great if we could repeat that, but as I was saying, sometimes we forget. Jordan here, who's number 5, he's our best player and still makes that mistake. She played AFL for Carlton this year. Unfortunately, she's hurt herself at the moment, but was best on ground in this game. Kicked 3 goals and had 25 disposals. Had a great day, but it still makes some of these fundamental errors. So important to highlight them. For Jord, she's actually allowed to move back this way in that direction when she marks the ball. She doesn't have to go back to the boundary. She's marked it a few metres in, but she's just continued on the angle that she was running and made it hard for herself. So she needs to probably step back, somewhere near here, to be able to then kick. Really good defence from the person on the mark. Jord, being a left footer, is probably just used to rolling on her left side and being able to kick without pressure, but a big mistake for us, particularly after we'd done so well for her to take that mark. Right, this is Emma Allen. This is Emma's first game of proper organised footy, but her dad's a footy club doctor. Her brother plays for Geelong College, is trained down here at the Falcons, and Emma's kicked the footy thousands of times. Marks it in the forward line, gets well back, rolls a few metres around, and is able to kick to space. So much better technique there. Kept moving, but got back from the person on the mark. Last one, sorry. Cassie again off her wing. Right back this time. That gives her the opportunity to play on, get sideways, have a few metres up her sleeve, get some momentum behind her kick, and now get a lot more power into this kick. So see, she starts on one side of the cricket pitch there at Ocean Grove. She finishes on the other. So she's been able to grab 5 or 6 metres in that kick, which means it goes over the head of that defender. And that's one of the biggest gains we're getting in our game, when we actually take the ball forward and kick it a bit further than the opposition expect. So she's able to get it over the head of that defender, where you get a mark. Maddie Boyd's back as well, gives her room to roll out and kick the ball, what could have been flatter, and get it inside 50. All of those bits add up over and over and over again. All right, we're really lucky when we play at our home ground that we're able to film the game from behind the goals. Brilliant for us because it allows us to show all the players what they're doing and how that it affects everyone else that they play with, and also how they can react to what the other players are doing and work in unison. So we're really fortunate. It also helps us highlight the outnumbers that we get at some of the contests. So we've marked the ball in the middle. We're coming down to the bottom of the screen. Now I would love this short kick here, which we talked about in our review. If Lily can hit that short one, either of these players can play on and kick to the back. That's great for us. There's no defence there. We don't get it this time. We're still learning. But what looks like not a great situation for the Cats there, 2-on-2 or 2-on-3, quickly turns into a terrific one. Great ground ball from Alicia. We better look at that. Change angles. Awesome. Take it and spin. And now our players arrive. That's a defender for us, Jamie. She's run down to help out number. Really important at any level of footy that you can get more players around the ball than the opposition. And if you teach your players that if they're around the ball to influence, and if they're not around the ball to stay back and defend, then it doesn't really matter where they've come from when they're attacking near the ball, because their players that aren't near the ball will cover for them. So we've got a defender now passing it to the ruck. And our players identify that there's trouble. So where they were running away here from what looked nice and neat, so Hannah's going away, Alicia's going away over there, they're moving. They see that this ball hits the ground and they come back to the ball and we get our outnumber and we're able to clean it up. Really important skill. When everything's clean, try and use as much space as you can. As soon as it's messy, everyone in and clean it up. Our team's, as you might gather, our team's not super clean with our ball use, but at the moment, the way they run and outnumber, we're able to score. Mon's got them super fit. They've worked really hard for a long time, and they just keep turning up on the screen. When I watch the vision from this angle, our girls just keep turning up. Sometimes they throw it too. If they go that fast, the umpires can't tell. Right. They're pretty excited. Similar sort of shot. So stoppage there. Able to share the ball and use our numbers. Sometimes, when the ball's kicked forward, you don't get an outnumber. But there they are now, coming to the screen, flying on. So a really good decision from Maddie there to go back to where her teammates are. Right, use your numbers around the ball, because if you don't use your numbers that are here, there's a fair chance you don't have them somewhere else anyway. Right, so if our girls are all there, they can't be all there and all there as well. So Maddie can't kick it forward blindly over her head. So she uses her numbers really well. That gives us a chance to at least get to the next contest and celebrate. Yeah. And the last one, right, this stoppage for us, this is our normal forward 50 sort of stoppage setup. A lot of teams that you play at all levels of footy, boys, girls, doesn't matter, put thousands of people around the ball, all right, half their team. We like to get people inside to fight, absolutely, and those players that are in there have to be really, really tough and hard at the ball. But we also like to have players control the outside of these contests, because sometimes it's going to spill to the, actually often it's going to spill to the outside. And if it doesn't spill to the outside, well, the Hawthorn team have to run out there before they kick anyway, and we want to be in the way to stop them. So number one here, Elise Strawn, that we saw kick a goal before, pretty clever player. She's a winger for us, or might be a half forward at this time. She stays out and owns that outside for us. So if Box Hill want to switch the ball, they've got to get through her. And the plus side is for Strawny, she can mark it and kick a goal too if she's in the right spot. Some of our girls found it hard to understand that at the minute. Like, you want me to hang out, but she's providing a really important part of our defence there. So all Box Hill can do, if they see her, is kick it high up in the air and we'll probably get it back. But importantly, we need to let her know and let the rest of the team know that sometimes you get rewarded for doing this too. Selfless role, but it can get you goals. Okay, so that's the outnumber stuff. Any questions on that? It's the main reason, the whole outnumber method. One, it's the main reason our team's been able to win 3 games, because we're not as skillful as the other teams in the competition yet, but we run really, really hard thanks to our long summer of training and the athletes that we've chosen in some of the spots. But the other thing too with that is, if you continue to work over and over and over again and get to the ball, you'll create more chances for yourself. Right, it's the reason now that the athletes have got so fit at AFL men's level and women's level. So if your good players in your team can't run, then they can't help their team outnumber. They probably won't get a game at higher levels. So as disappointing it is for those people that don't like to become good athletes, community footy will probably be their ceiling. So if you've got some young players that really aspire to play to AFL level, they do need to pay some attention to their conditioning. We've got a couple in our squad that are better kicks than most of the team, but won't get a game for a while until they can help play our way by getting up and down the ground. It's just the reality of how elite level sport is. I want to do last one.
Paul?
Yeah.
Just when you had with Box Hill that were kicking that defensive kick,
yeah.
You wouldn't obviously be coaching that kick.
No, we try and coach that kick to go a hell of a lot further than that. Yeah.
Yeah, or like not back into the.
No, so you imagine there's a big circle 30 metres out in front of goal. Yeah, never kick it there. Pretty much. Yeah. Sometimes the players like get pressure on them and they're trying not to, but the kick falls short. But no, we asked them not to do that. Strawny wasn't there. She's not set up there actually to take a mark, but it was nice that she did.
Hey guys, thanks so much for having George and myself. We're going to double team it because I think it'll add a lot more to the presentation if one of us just did it by itself and one of us just did it by itself. So hopefully you'll be able to get a really great grasp of what we've done this year. I've taken pretty much exactly what we've done in our pre-season, just gone, and put it all up on a slide so you should be able to see exactly what we've done. It was the first time for me coaching a whole group of females, so like you, I'm all very new to it. So I just tried my best and just went for it. So Woody's put a lot of pressure on us now after those references in the presentation, so hopefully we don't forget. I wanted to just quickly talk you through what we're going to do. So talk about to you guys how it began for us, what our squad looked like once we've done everything and got our squad together. Our pre-season theme, so I broke it down a lot because it was a big chunk of time, and if we just had that chunk of time again, you know, just deciding every single day what to do, I don't think we would have got the same outcome. So pre-planning ahead, picking out the themes of what we wanted to do for each session and each week, I think was really, really valuable for our girls. The learnings from it, so our reflections so far on the season, hopefully they will help you guys as well. Some learnings that we've got. Then I'm going to throw it over to George and he can talk about some injury prevention stuff, ACLs, which I'm sure you're all across. Returning the athlete from injury, being such a multidisciplinary team, there's really good diagrams, so hopefully that will really help you guys. And then just a collaborative approach throughout the team. So I know you're probably not, we're very little resource compared to other performance programs, but to you guys we might seem like we've got 1,000 staff. So apologies if that doesn't come across right, but hopefully this helps you guys through. So in the beginning, we had the Talent ID Day out at Deakin UD Warm Funds. I'm not sure if any of you guys remember. We had around 150 girls come to, or register to come to test to put their hand forward or their name forward to be in our squad. So it was run over one day. We did it all in one day. There were 30-minute time slots, and each time slot for each group had a different test that they completed. So we tried to grab 4 tests that replicated the demands that they would be faced with when they started playing in our training. So 20-metre speed, our vertical jump, 2K time trial, and obviously footy skills. We needed to see if they could kick, mark, catch, all that kind of thing there. So 30-minute time slots out at Deakin. It was a really great day. The girls were up and about. Never seen so many people excited to do fitness testing, which is refreshing. So this is what it looked like. Okay, so we had, once we've done list management, all that lovely stuff of choosing who's in our team, who's out of our team, making all those decisions, we pretty much had 2 subgroups within our squad. So we had a group of girls who were footballers previously, so had the football experience. They came with all their kick, mark, catching, but they also came with some other sort of opportunities we could improve. So their fitness history was very poor. They had no really experience to a professional program. So to see someone like me turn up and say, girls, runners on, let's go run, they're kind of like, whoa, what are you doing? What are you saying? And then the final one was a new thing for them as well, was they just had competition for this position. So at the start, it was super friendly. I couldn't have got our squad together, or they couldn't have been better as a cohesive group. But then there was that competitiveness for the list spots, which I think was quite new, because being in football where there probably wasn't a lot, there wasn't that much, the biggest profile there was. So that was really new for them. On the flip side, we had all the girls that came across from the codes. So our netballers, our basketballers, our ultimate frisbee players, they all came across. No football experience, but are very, very good, or most of them that we came across, good physical history. So quite fit, ready to go, done heaps of strength training in the past, just a really nice, well-rounded athlete. So they have the base there, we just needed to add the cream to the crop after that. So obviously we had to teach them kicking, marking, handballing. The large ground size was new to them. You know, our soccer players were pretty good. They had a pretty good understanding of that. But the netball court to the football field is a massive difference. So for them, they're just like, I can't believe I can run down the wing now, like instead of just having 1/3 to working. So it was really exciting for them. And the 360-degree nature of the sport, instead of just being able to receive the ball here, someone can now tackle you from behind. So for them, that was a massive thing. So we had two areas we're trying to merge together. In addition to the team culture, the cohesiveness, deciding our leadership, all that kind of stuff, and ultimately performance, which is what we're all here for, before round one. So you can see we've quite a bit of a challenge on our plate, but that's what it looked like when we started. So we identified that really quickly and worked out our themes and our areas of where we had to improve. Does that all make sense? It's quite a busy slide, so I apologise for that. The next thing I wanted to talk about was our themes. So once we've profiled our list, we've identified some really good strengths in our girls and then our opportunities to work on. So as we just talked about, some girls for fitness, some girls for the skills. We then, with any program that I like to write, I like to quantify what our girls are going to get in the end. So what is the end goal we're going to try and take them to? So for an Olympic sport, it might be their 100-metre swim race they have to do. So you ultimately get that goal, work out what that sport, that advantage is going to cost you. So if it's speed, agility, whatever it is, and then work your time frame back and work out how you do the things in between that will get you to that point. We had no idea what this was going to be. AFL Women's hadn't started yet when we were doing this in October and November. The local games, to us, there's not a heck of a lot of vision out there on it. To quantify it, we hadn't had there's no research, published literature on it, which there is for AFL, for soccer, for hockey, all those kind of things. There's nothing out there to actually say, an AFL women's game, you'll run 8Ks, you'll take 20 marks, you'll do any of that kind of stuff. So we were flying blind going in. My background is I've worked with our AFL men's squad now for 6 years, so I kind of got what they do, worked out a kind of conversion based off women's soccer, the metres per minute or the intensity they do it, just go, yep, that's what I think AFL women's is going to look like. So stab in the dark, tiny bit of scientific pseudoscience behind it, that then got us to what we needed to get to. So total distance quantification, high speed running, which I'm sure you've all heard of, that sort of super intense, harder effort, change of direction, and obviously total minutes. Being quite different, it's not 20 minutes plus play on, 20 minutes capped. So it's a different sort of nature, a different beast that we're working towards. And then again, just talk us through duration of pre-season. It was 18 weeks in total, which is longer than our AFL men's, which goes for an eternity. So this one went for longer than that. But I wouldn't change a thing. I wouldn't go back, I wouldn't make it less time. I would do it all again because the benefits we got out of the girls from a skill and fitness point of view was something that we probably wouldn't have been able to do if we had a shorter period of time. We could really take our time and focus and actually work through all those technical things that Hoodie really highlighted with the ground balls and that kind of stuff. We gave the girls time to learn it. They didn't all do it in one session and then we played round one. That just wasn't how it worked. So in December, we had our testing day in November, profiled our squad, and then we started. We had 6 sessions before Christmas in December. So we started off really, really basic for the girls, introduced them to what they would be faced with. So fitness to start with in a conditioning session, physio stuff that they have to tick off some things before they can actually train, and then to have assistant coaches and coaches as well with them. There was quite a big learning curve for them, and obviously implemented into, we trained on Simmons for those 6 sessions, which to everyone, but for the girls to get on Simmons and actually be in it's massive for them. They really loved it. So the structure we did for that, we had around about 60-minute session or so, and we broke it up into 3 lots of 20 minutes. So we would rotate the girls. So there'd be one coaching rotation, another coaching rotation, and then a conditioning rotation. So the idea of that was in that 20 minutes I got with the girls while they were learning skills, was I can then teach them some footwork stuff as we talked about, teach them or get them to run, work on all the things we needed to do. So I used that time, that 20 minutes, to teach them footwork, to do bodyweight strength, just introduce them to all the patterns and the things that we needed. So when they had to get to their ground ball and low, they had that technique to then build on. So when we went into the gym, it was easy. They just picked the weights up and went for it. They weren't trying to do weights and learn the technique all at the same time. Also a really, really time efficient way to do it. We only had a certain amount of time. We can't put all of the cookies in the jar at once, so we had to work out exactly how we wanted to use that time and divide it up. Christmas, we sent them away with a program to do over Christmas. So it wasn't super intense, but it was so they could come back in January and not have lost anything from that December time. So we try not to make Christmas Day into Christmas month, if you want to talk about it in that term. So they did come back in later January, but we had some focus for the girls, and the group that trained together, we had a bit of a social group that would train together, were almost in every top 10 result of our physical testing. So if that is any incentive going forward for our girls, is the girls that got together and trained every single time together, they pretty much took up the top 10 spots in all our physical conditioning as we tested throughout the pre-season. So massive for those girls. Like, they couldn't be prouder of them for what they did. In January, we kept the baseline conditioning going. So this is all about fartlek, all about MAS RIDS. If it sounds like I'm talking gibberish, come see me afterwards. I'm happy to discuss what they are. Quite baseline stuff, and we then started to just dribble in the high intensity, high speed running. So we tended to go through 2 or 3 things at one time, just dabbled them in. So we had a Tuesday and a Thursday session. They were different themes. So Tuesday might be more of a conditioning session. Thursday might be a speed session. So we tried to break it up for them. Also, from a stimulus point of view, they weren't just then going, oh, same stuff again over and over and over. We had to keep them really interested, engaged for 18 weeks, which is a bit of a challenge. So that's how we did it. Feb, I then started to take the conditioning out of it. So dropped a lot of the longer stuff out of it and added in some shuttle change of direction. So that rapid change of speed the girls would require, running here, stopping, almost doing a 180, then coming back and going again. So we tried to structure that through. So I could have done like pretty little graphs and showed you how we went here and there, but hopefully this will get it across as well. The little italic there for strength, we started group sessions at that time. So all the girls had their own strength that they had to do, but we didn't actually introduce group stuff until then. Partly because we didn't actually have a lot of access, with Simmons getting redeveloped and knocked down and all that kind of stuff. There was pretty limited access for facilities that way. But also because I wanted to get the girls to a fair bit of work before introducing that. We can't slap them with skills, with conditioning, with a new ground, new game, all that kind of stuff, and add strength on the end, because there's only so many things you can win with along the way before something starts to fall away. So we decided that then is the best time to add it in. Again for March, so all the long conditioning pretty much just dropped straight out. We're going high speed running, we're going change of direction, and the last thing we added in, can anyone guess? Contact, so bumps. So what we tried to do with that was be pretty creative. Again, time was a massive factor because we're going through lots and lots and lots of skills. Is we introduced skills, conditioning and contact all in one time. So we called it this little contact conditioning drill, where they had a couple of coaches. Each little drill went for about 30 seconds, be it ground balls, be it tackling, be it structure, stoppages, whatever it is. Then they had to hightail it across to the next one within a certain time frame. Then there's wrestling for a few minutes and they go again. So it's something that's yuck, it's really gross, don't like doing it, but it exactly replicates what the game's going to look like. So that was our way of sort of trying to match it all together, get it all together, and that sort of tied it into when we started game prep for April for when finally our first practice match came around. It was a pretty big relief to actually get there. Does anyone have any questions on that? No? Cool. Alright, so the learnings for us so far. We had a lot of girls come across from different codes who hadn't quite decided yet if they wanted to do footy, they wanted to do soccer, and play night netball and volleyball with their friends as well. So the biggest challenge for me was monitoring the girls and how many times a week they're playing sport. So we were asking a lot of them when they came to us. So by then asking them to do the same kind of intensity every single night. Some were training with the AFL Academy this time, training with us, and then obviously trying to train to make sure they get better. And we're on, waiting or injury list for AFL women's squads. So monitoring all that was really, really important. We were off-site for a lot of our pre-season. I'm super, super spoiled and probably a little bit naive. So when we have the AFL men, we have access to pretty much everything in Simmons. So strength, we have water on cue, we have whatever we need. So for us to be off-site, sometimes we had amazing facilities, deep community at Warm Ponds. Can't rate that highly enough, but we had limited access to vision. So what footy was going through to show those girls and to actually show them that footage really, really helps the learning process for a lot of them. So a lot of the time we were limited with what we could actually get across to them. So it was all about teaching and showing them. So hopefully for the next pre-season, that's something we have a lot of access to, because I think it adds a lot to the program. Again, and gym and recovery facilities. So something for the girls when it's new to them, it's all about the recovery. So those bumps and bruises you probably would have got in netball. That's something new that they had to take on. The mini breaks, 18 weeks, you probably want a break from hearing my voice all the time. So for them it was really important, and they really thrived on when we gave them time away from us. So really just learning to get back to their social lives as well. So that was a really big thing. Social cohesion of the squad. We had all these new girls. We had girls playing footy, then we had girls playing to come from other squads. We didn't quite know how it was all going to go together, because they're kind of like, you're on my turf now, and that kind of thing. But couldn't have got a better group together, and they've done super, super well to where they are. And finally, we've been really lucky with the Gs, or our men's programs, both VFL and AFL. They've really taken these girls under their wing, and to have them come talk to us, to share facilities, to train with our VFL men, it's been a really highlight for some of our girls. And some great footage and vision came out of that, where Erin took a mark over everyone, and then there was a hanger. One of our VFL boys took a hanger on one of our girls. So it's a great training session, that one. I think we got a lot out of it. But pretty much from me, I'm going to hand over to George now, and he's going to talk about kind of what we did from an injury prevention point of view, that kind of thing. Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, I might have one just on the bar for the group maybe. Obviously you've got an 18-week window to work with the girls.
Yep.
With our age groups being, I think, 13, 15 and 19, 12, 15 and 19.
Yep.
Could you, or it might be something we do later, but some recommendations for a length of a pre-season and maybe the main components at those age groups?
Yep. I don't think it doesn't need to be nearly as long as ours, not at all. But yeah, absolutely, we can work through something like that. Yep.
Just firstly, thank you to Katie for having us here tonight, and to all of you for coming out on a Wednesday night. I think it's a great effort. We're really excited to be part of this program, but as Woody said, it's going to keep growing, and it's a really exciting thing to be part of. As far as what I'm here to talk about, it'll be injury prevention, and then ACL injuries and ACL injury prevention. Just touching on our program and what we've done with our girls. As far as injury prevention, first of all, we took a pretty comprehensive past medical history of them, so we'll be able to flag any past injuries that they've had. That's the best indicator of any future injuries as well. So that was sort of the first thing, so we could sort of subgroup them and keep an eye on who had what injuries through the pre-season. But as far as the injury prevention, the prep to train mini circuits before training, the girls would get to training about 45 minutes before training, and we'd already have set up a circuit of exercises to complete, which just included basically whole body warm-up exercise. So it was really active. There's not really any passive stretching. It's really active, going across all the major joints in the body and major muscle groups, ticking off balance and a bit of proprioception, and making sure we're working the front and the back of the body. So it gives them a really good warm-up before they even go out and start running around. Incorporating into that, we taught them a body check circuit, which just identified any soreness. So a lot of girls that had never done a football pre-season before, or had come from other sports and hadn't done a football pre-season, they were pulling up sore in areas that they'd never been sore in. So we basically, again, ticking off the major muscle groups, major joints in the body, getting them to calf raise, jump, hop, squat, lunge, jump on and land 2 feet, jump and land 1 foot. We incorporated a lot of different exercises, and if you want those programs, we're more than happy to send them out as well. But what you'll see with the ACL prevention research out there that I'll present just a little bit later, is we incorporated a lot of those exercises into this stuff here. So we're ticking off injury prevention, as well as flagging any potential risk of injury for that training session. So the girls were aware if they had soreness in a calf or in a quad, or in one of the exercises, they'd come to either Mon or myself, and we'd check it out and provide the best management going forward. So I guess a bigger part of my talk is the ACL injury and the prevention of ACL injuries. And when I think of prevention, we need to understand exactly what happens with an injury, how it happens, how often it happens, identifying the risk factors, and then what risk factors are modifiable to actually be able to implement strategies to then mitigate the risk of that injury occurring. So hopefully today we'll go through briefly all of that stuff, so you'll have a little bit more knowledge about what actually happens when someone injures their ACL. We saw 4 ACLs in the AFL women's season occur within the first 2 rounds. This one from the Collingwood game. And this is just probably my favourite footage of an ACL injury. Not because it's an ACL injury, but it highlights the most common way when it goes to the next view. Most common way for it to occur. So she saw the opponent behind her. That stimulus made her change direction. But when she changed direction, her reaction was to stick her foot outside of her base of support with her weight going the other way. So once this flicks through, this is going to go into a little animation of what happens in that exact instance. The non-contact, so that type of injury, the non-contact ACL injury is the most common way that you're going to injure your ACL. So in this example here, like the Collingwood player, we stick the foot out to the side. In that moment there, we get rotation of the thigh bone relative to a fixed shin bone. Then what that does, that rotation there, puts stress on the ACL that sits in the middle of the knee. Now, that's not the only structure in the knee that provides stability, but it's one of the main ones. That's not to say that's the only way you can injure your ACL. You can get someone colliding with your legs. You can get, those contact ones probably only account for between 5 to 10% of ACL injuries. The rest are the non-contact ones. And the best thing about that is we have a chance to try and change movement patterns, change strength, change coordination, so that we can affect how people move and limit that risk. All right. Maybe the stimulus behind her was so much that she moved in that way. Maybe if it was, it wasn't, she didn't feel as threatened that she was going to get tackled, she would have been able to get her weight over her body to change direction. She might normally move like that, and that was just waiting to happen. As far as the population we're talking about, females have a 2 to 6 times increased injury rate of ACL injuries. So there's a lot of research out of Europe and America. They pull a lot of participants, mostly out of soccer and European handball, and they basically tracked the number of hours that those participants, both male and female, played sport, and then how many injuries, how many ACL injuries and other injuries were happening in those sports. And females specifically in the late teens and early 20s had a higher incidence of ACL injuries, and more specifically for the sort of 13 and 15-year-olds, they had a 5 times higher injury rate than the male counterparts. A few other interesting stats just out of that data is you're at a higher risk, probably just the demand of a game compared to training, so a higher risk during games. And as the standard increases, so as we're going to be pushing more girls into AFL level, and as Woody said, the game's going to be faster, it's only going to get faster and more skillful, we'll probably see those rates increase early on, but then hopefully the movement patterns and the strength and the coordination work that we do with them brings them back down. Most of these non-contact injuries occur if we're landing, cutting, pivoting or changing direction. And I think the next part or the research that I'll present later is what we can have an effect on. So females compared to males, what are the risk factors or what are the differences? So if we look at the anatomy of females, the pelvic girdle is wider in females compared to males. So when we've got a leg length that is relative to your height, that is very similar, but we're starting from a wider angle, it means that the angle down at the knee is greater. So if that's the case, it's going to put more force through that knee joint. And if we've got a knee joint that in females is generally smaller than males, so the notch where the ACL goes through is smaller, and we've generally got smaller ligaments in female than male, if we're putting more force through that joint, in through a smaller joint that can't distribute the load as well, we've potentially got an increased risk there. Research sort of leans towards the fact that there might be some increased ligament sort of laxity or joint play in females. The neuromuscular control and relative strength, so just in general terms, the amount of power that females can produce compared to males is reduced, and there's a lot of statistics out there to suggest that females' hamstring strength isn't quite as good as it should be, which is an indicator for hamstring injury as well as ACL injury. There's old data that suggests that hormonal factors played a role in ACL injury, but there's later, like the more recent research has sort of debunked that theory, and footwear in the past with surfaces where people were getting their foot stuck, twisting and causing injury, that's improved a lot recently as well. So if we take the risk factors and look at the ones that we can't modify, but then go down to strength, fitness and neuromuscular control and how people move, which is the 90% of ACL injuries, we look at the research around the world, and I've only picked 4 case studies out of probably 50 that I could have presented. But FIFA threw a lot of money into a research say in 2009 where they got nearly 2,000 participants. 3 of these studies are from Norway. So the FIFA obviously related to soccer. All the participants were in the age group that we're going to be dealing with. What they did is they implemented a 20-minute program into their training, similar to what we have done with the VFL women. The 20-minute warm-up program incorporated jogging, strength exercises, jumping and landing, balance exercises, and running drills. They only did it 2 times per week. They split their 1,900 participants into a control group and a participant group or a interventional group, and there was a 50% reduction in incidence of ACL injuries in that interventional group compared to the control group, and 39% of just all other injuries as well. We go across to another study out of Norway in European handball. They had around 1,000 participants, similar population. They only did 3 exercises, and there were 3 different balance exercises. Depending on how proficient the athlete was, there were different levels of exercises of complexity that they could go through, 5 different levels. But they had a 50, again, splitting them into 2 groups, had a 51% reduction in ACL injuries in the interventional group. This knee control study, another one out of Norway with soccer, had 2,647 participants, so similar to the FIFA one. They just did 6 different strength, balance and landing technique exercises, and again, depending on the age, they had a 30 to 50% reduction in ACL injuries. And then closer to home, Cryo Bay Health Group have a partnership over with the Rowville Sports Academy, which is out of the Rowville Secondary College out in the east of Melbourne. The school, or the Sports Academy, put in a physio practice into their school to implement injury prevention strategies 8 years ago. The school started with, in the sports stream, in the Sports Academy, they started with 150 students enrolled in their sports streams. And now, 8 years later, they have over 850 students. When they took on that role, they had 13 students that had ACL injuries. This year, they don't have any. So all these guys did, they get the students, they've got 12 different sports that they have students on scholarships for, and they get them into the gym and out onto whichever sport they're in, out onto the field or court or oval for 50 minutes once per week. That's the only amount of time that they get them for, and they go through basically all the types of exercises that these studies have worked on. All right, so there's going to be some research coming out of that establishment pretty soon. And it just highlights, as I said, there's lots more research out there to suggest that this stuff works. And the beauty of it is we can just jump on the internet when we go home. We can access the FIFA 11 program. We can go on the AFL website to the Community Footy First knee program, which is a really basic program, but it's not a bad place to start. You can jump online to the knee program on Netball Australia, which is a really comprehensive program and maybe too complex. to implement in the local level. But they're all great ideas, and the point of it is, if we take little bits and pieces, there's no right or wrong, but if we get 15 to 20 minutes of these types of exercises into your warm-up, it has a big reduction in your injury rates. These are the resources and the forms and the booklets and that sort of stuff. That's the FIFA one, that's the European handball one, and that's the knee control study. So you can just basically work through all of these different exercises and have a great effect. I guess the thing that I'd be, if I was a coach and out at the local level, and the things that we're sort of looking for, and with these non-contact ACLs, like the Collingwood player, you could see how the knee came in as the foot was planted. So if we're looking at someone jump with that takeoff position here, that's not where we want those knees inside those feet. We want to try and push them out a little bit so they're over the top of the feet. So especially with the landing, which will be the next one as well, we don't want those knees coming in. So if you're seeing that sort of thing, that's the cue to say, hey, we need to probably try and implement something and try and get some feedback to that person, or go and see a professional in town to try and implement something, because that's a risk that we can mitigate. It only gets exaggerated more in this one, and funnily enough, Maddie here is just demonstrating this exercise, but she unfortunately has done her ACL. And then with decelerating, we want to make sure that we're doing lots of little steps. That's probably the running one when we're changing direction. Is the common flaw there is that we're doing lots of big steps to slow down and change direction. But I think the biggest one, if you can highlight that the knees are coming in relative to where the hips are, I think something needs to change there.
How long they off for when they do?
Yeah, average would be 12 months. Generally the average would be 12 months. So,
is that the knee going in? Is that a lot to do with foot posture, dietary, or strength in the legs?
It could be a combination of both, but a lot of the time it's around that neuromuscular control. So it's around the coordination. That person might have always moved like that, and they might have done that a million times in their life. But as they get into higher intensity sport, or we get someone ready to tackle you behind, coming from behind, they take off, and it might just be too much force at that particular point that puts stress through the ACL and it can't tolerate that load. So I think a lot of these ones where you see the knees coming in, I think that's a lot more control. There may be a component lower that is about stability, but a lot of that knee control is coming from the hips and the hip stability.
So strengthening.
Absolutely, yeah. Strengthening and awareness of body position and how they move.
So they're bands.
Yep, absolutely. Yep.
Stuff.
All that sort of stuff, and that's what we implement with that mini band work in that prep to train and body check program. So the take-home messages there, I've gone over it, but young females have a higher incidence of ACLs than males. We can have a large influence on how people move, so make sure that we implement that change early. If they keep moving the same way that they already have for a long time, they'll just keep doing that. We're creatures of habit, we like doing what we're good at, and it's hard to change something, but when we do change it, we can change it for the better. 15 minutes is enough. We just want to try and do it a couple of times a week. And if the coach can really drive that, out of all of those studies, every study says that we need to have a key person at the local level that's able to drive this and just keep reinforcing it. Compliance is vital too. With a lot of those studies, the ones that didn't do the exercises were the ones that were doing the injuries.
So the last point of this presentation, we just wanted to talk you through how we actually return our girls from injury. So we've had a couple of experiences over the pre-season, so we're getting there. Hopefully we don't have too many more, but kind of wanted to talk through and show you how we do it from this point of view, just to give you guys some ideas or show you how potentially it could be done. So George, you want to talk until you get to me? How can that be?
Yeah, obviously. So whether it's training or a game, we're lucky enough to have a doctor there at most trainings and at every game, and myself at every training and games. It's obviously going to be a little bit different at the local level. Obviously, if there's an injury that occurs and they can't, if you don't, a lot of common sense can take place. If you deem that they can't continue, and that they're in enough pain. Have a chat to the parents and see whether they want to get professional advice. But we basically assess the injury, get an idea of what's happening. Communication's a big thing, but we initially get the initial management, whether the doctor needs to be involved, get the physio happening, and then it's basically a crossover period between trying to get that player from the injured phase early on, the acute injury management, into how quickly can we get them over to the fitness side of things, and then back into the skill acquisition and back into playing. So there's a lot of crossover, and the earlier that you can do that, the better. So it might be that they have a foot injury, but they can still handball the ball.
Still do upper body stuff to keep that fit and all that kind of stuff. And if it's one hand, try and keep the other hand going as well. Because there's studies to show that strength by one in the brain, it does some really powerful things, and it can actually help to get that strength through that one as well. So what we do in this, in that middle kind of section is we give and take. So if I really want to push something, we can determine where they're up to or not at that stage. And if George needs to have more of an influence, so he might be 90%, I've only got 10, but we try and gradually build that to go 50-50, and then we hope to be able to give them to the coach quite soon after that to ensure they have that sort of rounded return to play. So they will have dealt with everyone in the team, but then hopefully they've crossed and ticked all the points they need to before they can then return straight to back to playing to make sure we've given them the best outcome. So I think that leads really nicely into the last one, is just the collaborative approach we have between our teams. So being our doctor, George, myself, Hoodie, and also our operations. So we try and work as much as we can as a collaborative team. Communication is the biggest thing. So we run our own kind of app. It looks a little bit like Facebook, but it's not. So when you're on it at work, you're like, no, it's not Facebook, it's actually work. But it helps us to communicate that information. So all our players are on it as well. So our whole list is there. So if they need to touch base with a coach, they can directly go to their coach, or if it's via text or whatever it is, it enables them to be able to touch base with us at any time throughout the day. And it's as private or as open as you want it to be. So there could be a post for a social thing on to everyone, or there might be a direct message, Mom, I'm away for the weekend. How can I get a running session? Or George, I feel really sore from the game. Can I come and see you at the clinic? So that's been one of our biggest positives we've had out of this, is to be able to communicate really well. And then as staff, to have us all on the same page as well. Returning athletes and games and all of that in the mix as well. It's really, really important. The other thing is using each person's knowledge. So what each of us have brought tonight is something completely different, and hopefully that's really clear, but that's where we really add value to the team. So I know nothing about surgery and stitches and anything like that, and also the ACL really early on, I don't have a lot to know with, but as soon as it then starts to come back my way, that's when we can really start to impart that knowledge and use the specialisations of each person in the team. And then lastly, the decision is really driven, and the making of them, by our club values. So really holds us instead when we have a really challenging decision or something that might be a bit, on the line or something like that. We really refer back to our values to make sure they're in line with our decisions. So our 4 ones that our girls are really quite clear on, we refer back to them to make sure that the standards they bring, the standards we bring, and as a team, it's really clear what's related to everyone else from there. But that was the last part of our presentation. So, did you guys?
This is going to sound pretty basic. We get our girls for 11, 12, 13-year-old girls for an hour every week.
Yeah.
Would you still be recommending them warm up for 15 minutes before that session, and then are you saying cool down as well, or is it all right after your age? That sort of stuff not as important, or we're not doing high intensity stuff?
Yeah. I would still recommend to do it. That would be
absolutely. I mean, if you take the example of the Roeville Sports Academy, the earlier we can get doesn't matter, girls or boys moving well as athletes, that's going to help with injury reduction. From my point of view, it's going to help with injury reduction. So I guess their mantra up there is their junior school, so year 7 and 8. It's a lot about fun, but they're teaching them how to move well. It's not lifting heavy weights. It's not doing lots of repetitions. but they're teaching them how to do basic body movements that teaches them to move well, so that when they go into the intermediate school, they're able to actually start to train to be competitive. And then when they go into the senior school, they're able to train to win. All right? And that's how they build them up over the time. It doesn't happen straight away, but they try and have that flow on there.
Just one quick thought. With the 15 minutes, should that be what those slides basically were from 2 slides ago? That should be their warm-up period, what they actually do. So that next one there, so say something in the middle and make them do that for 15 minutes to warm up.
Yeah, absolutely. So the FIFA 11 there, you've got jogging part of it or running exercises at the start, just a really slow jog. You've got some strength, which are all just body weight exercises. You've got some jumping and landing exercises. So they're absolutely safe, easy to implement, and you could pick 3 or 4 of these and change them up on a monthly basis, so that they actually get some carryover as they go. The netball one that I showed, they basically have the similar exercises, but there's videos of them, so if you need to have a look at the videos rather than just the handouts. But I think it's a good full body sort of warm-up footy to go.
As training time, as time spent working skills, is never more than 40 minutes a night in season. And I think our biggest one over the pre-season, we might have got out to 60, but actual footy time is never more than 40 minutes. And warm-up and prep time, probably about the same as that night to night. So yeah, sometimes it's bigger. But in the warm-up, at the end of it, the coaches will get out and throw balls at girls as they're running through the hats and things like that, and get some punching, get used to using the footy. But probably what fills the most time for us is the coaches talking in between the girls instead of the girls to go from one to the other. But we're really conscious that we have to designate enough time for that stuff, or we have 6 weeks where we can do the work and go for it.
I think so. I'll just touch one more time on that. Like for the early teenage years, if you can teach them to squat well, like what Hoodie was showing the vision on when they're picking the ball up, they're basically in that squat position, sticking their bottom out. If they're squatting like this, right, they're not activating in through their hips and getting that good strength. So teaching them that early on is absolutely fine, and it'll have carryover into the skills as well.
We're a bit strategic with it sometimes. We actually made it a game. So our change of direction kind of thing, we actually sometimes made it into a game. So they didn't know they were doing it. We were getting the outcome they wanted, but it was also fun. So it might be as simple as, I don't know if the kids still like this at 11 and 12, but tunnel ball is probably not a bad one because they're in a pretty similar position to what they need to be. So you could just put some rules around it that you have to have your knees bent while you're doing it and that kind of thing. So we just tried to, exactly like you said, keep the training doing what we need to do, but they're mixing it up as well, so they didn't know they were doing it the whole time.
Yeah, so you spoke about the musculoskeletal sort of stuff. With regards to concussion, and obviously we're working with kids getting bumps and lights and stuff all the time at a local level, managing a player on the team with concussion. Can you speak to that at all?
Absolutely. Your best resource there will be the AFL community site. There is a great resource on concussion right above the Footy First link there. So you need to take it really seriously. There's great resources about initial injury management, being the first responder, how to recognise a concussion, what to do when you do recognise a concussion, which should be not to let them play out that day. You need to tell them, educate that to the player, and then at the junior level, talking to the parents about that. There's some great handouts about all of that sort of stuff that I've just discussed on the AFL website, but if you have copies on the sidelines and you can skip to the parents, it's pretty clear that it should be taken seriously, and then there should be clearance before they return to play. Now, for anyone under 17, the recommendation is that there should be 14 days of from the last set of symptoms before they return to play. And in these resources too, on there's a really nice segmented way how you should return someone back to training and playing. So that's where I'll point you towards. But I think out of any of the injuries, concussion's pretty high for our group so far. Does that help?
Very cool. We'll wrap it up there. Thanks.
Thanks very much for having me, and thanks very much for coming along tonight and spending your time here instead of at home. It's the first year that I've coached girls as well. I've coached probably for about the last 9 or 10 years. With my last coaching job was at the Anglesey Footy Club senior side, and I've coached junior boys as well at the Geelong College and also at South Barwon seniors. So to do the girls, I knew there'd be a few differences, and I've just handed out an article that was written by Nathan Burke, and he goes and presents a lot of different things around football and resilience and mindfulness and all different stuff. And I saw him at a coaches conference one day, and he sort of struck a chord with me, and he's got a couple of girls that are 18 as well, 17 and 18, that he's coached in soccer. So there's a few things there about the differences between boys and girls, and I'll probably go through some of them as well, just from what I found over my period. We started in December. We had 4 sessions before Christmas, and then had the school holiday break, and then went from late January through to Easter, I think it was. We played 5 games at the end of the pre-season, the first time they've had a TAC Cup competition for the girls, which will hopefully expand next year as well and continue to get bigger. Do I just press that one, Katie? Yeah. So what I wanted to talk about firstly, before I get into some culture stuff, was just some of the strengths that I found from the girls, and especially in comparison to the boys. And I found them to be a lot easier to coach, I suppose, and I don't know whether you guys have found that out as well, but I just found that girls seem to be better communicators than boys. They'll let you know whether they're, is that right, ladies? Yeah. They love a chat, but they also, from the coaching point of view, they were really open to us to let us know whether they were happy or sad or good or bad, or they've had a bad day, or they wanted to train hard, or have an easier night, which we didn't really give them too many options with that one. But and I found that really refreshing as a coach as well, because especially we could sort of adapt our training at certain times, and also just to individuals as well if they're having a bad day, or whereas boys sort of clam up and withdraw, and generally as coaches we usually go a bit harder at them because we think that they're being lazy or whatever it is. But the girls just seem to be really good communicators. They're really team orientated. They love to work together to solve problems. Boys are a little bit more competitive within each other, I found, and within a team environment sometimes that can be really hard, whereas I thought the girls straight away bought into the team concept, and because they seem to communicate better and work together. That was one of our strengths as a team this year, obviously. They're obviously willing to learn, and you guys would have seen it. It's all pretty new to them as well, so every opportunity that you give them to improve, they take. So make sure you're not just leaving it as is and you're not happy with how it is right now. Keep adding layers to the way you train. Do a small drill, add an extra layer to it, make it bigger and bigger, because they just want to learn how to play the game. They want to understand the insights that go with the game. They watch it on TV, but when you're out there playing, you learn so many things each week, and as a coach, it was fantastic to be able to add layers every week. They value relationships really, really well as well. As long as you treat them really with respect and show some real care for them, they'll always come back to you and ask questions, and also between themselves as well. If you can create that care factor between each other, it really helps from a team perspective as well. And empathetic and caring, which, as I said before, with the relationships and everything, and we really drove that message a lot, the caring side of things. I thought it was, from a team perspective again, one of the things that I've always felt that let the sides down that I've coached, that a lot of the guys didn't care about each other enough. They're out there to get a kick themselves, and to try and change that is really hard in the boys, but in the girls it was a really easy one. Has anyone else got any strengths that they've sort of seen so far, or do any of them ring true?
Yeah.
Yeah? Anyone disagree with any of them? No?
Some are both.
Some are both?
Yeah.
In regards...
Strengths and weaknesses.
Yes, that's right, yeah. And I'll go into our challenges, and some of the challenges that I felt were their strengths as well, and it was just a matter of how we actually dealt with the challenges, I suppose. I'll just look at my notes just to make sure I get this right. So the challenges early on for us, so everyone's laughing, so that obviously happened to everyone. It was not listening to the coaches and talking. So when we were giving a message about a drill, there'd always be a couple that talked out the back, and for a start we didn't want to look like the bad guy either, so we actually let it go a little bit and ignored it, but that was a mistake, and we should have picked it up straight away. And in reality, in life, you don't get to talk, while other people are talking, and so we tried to sell that message that it's not just about footy training, that you need to show respect to the people that are trying to help you out. So that was one of the main ones. The other way that we sort of got around it, and you do this with boys as well when you're coaching, is ask a lot of questions when you're delivering a message to them. So you're not always telling them what you think and how to do it, you're actually including them in the learning. And yeah, we found that I suppose it made them listen to us because they thought they were going to get a question asked to them or whatever as well. The other one, just with talking as well, was at the back of drills. So they'd kick the footy through and go to the back of the hat, and then they'd have a conversation while everyone else is training. And the message from us was to stay involved in the drill. You can learn things if you're at the back of a hat. You should be backing up. All these little things that, just because the girls haven't played footy before, they sort of don't realise are important. But also the other thing you can do with that is make sure that there's only 2 or 3 on the hats. So whatever drill you're organising, make sure that there's always a footy. They're always at the front of the hat all the time. So there was some simple little things with that. The emotional side of things, so by that I mean breaking down and crying pretty much, more than anything. That was probably something that I thought I was going to have to deal with, and I wasn't really keen on having to deal with it too much. But as I said before, I found it really refreshing that the girls would actually, let me know what was going on and what was worrying them, and they'd actually, break down. And we sort of we didn't encourage it, but it was really, really good from a coaching point of view that we could adjust our coaching towards that individual for that night or whatever it was. Early on, I had one girl who she didn't like doing the running, and she was pretty poor at the running, and we had a pretty strong running program because we sort of did a 30-minute session of running before we actually got into the footy. So, and it was made known that it was pretty important that we were fit. And she come and saw me just before training and sort of broke down and said that that she was looking at finding excuses for not coming for the first half an hour of training, like, I'm working or whatever. And thankfully she come to me and broke down and said that. But what that meant then is, obviously showed some care and empathy towards her and understood her situation, and just let her know as well not to compare herself to the really fast runners or anybody else, but we just wanted to see improvement from her, and we just gave her some little goals to make sure that you just keep running through to the hat instead of trying to go as hard as you can and then slowly walking or whatever it was. And also what we did for that point of view was when the running was on after that, instead of us going out like you were with a bloke who was near the back and saying, "Come on mate, get going," or whatever it was, we actually encouraged her, and we saw great improvement over the pre-season, and it was, as I said, the emotional side was a challenge, but I actually found it as being one of the strengths of the girls as well. Challenging poor effort was one that, was a hard one. After dealing with blokes where you can be pretty forthright in regards to the way you sort of deal with that. A lot of times it was just as an overall group thing that the effort was down in a drill. And once again, when we got them in to challenge that poor effort, we just asked the girls questions about whether they thought that was of a standard that we should be at, or how do we think we went with that, how can we improve that. So we just continued to ask questions, and then we'd generally go back out and try and fix that and let them actually fix it themselves. Also, just probably the other thing to just remember, don't challenge poor effort to an individual in a group situation, because I did it once and I didn't really have a real go at the girl, but I just saw a face drop, and so it's not a good thing to do with boys or girls really. You should, if it's an individual thing, you should talk to them on the side. And the other thing was pushing the girls outside of their comfort zone. Teenage girls can be pretty self-conscious about looking silly and looking silly in front of their peers. And our main message through our whole pre-season and during the games was to learn from your mistakes. We said that some of our drills were based around making mistakes and learning from them. So we just continued that mantra every week. Just make sure you learn from your mistakes, And it got to the point where at training, their teammates would actually say, don't worry about that, just learn from that one next time. So our message obviously got through, and it was just a constant message all the time to keep trying to do something that's harder than what you did last time. Anyone else got any challenges that they want to quickly discuss before I go on to the next bit? No? Does any of them ones ring true? Yep. Yep, no worries. It's good I'm on the right track anyway, so it's not just me. So because we are brand new, we were able to create our own team culture right from scratch. We had a blank canvas. Early on, before we started, the coaches just had a meeting and sort of put down our goals and objectives from a coaching point of view for the year. And they were it was pretty basic. It wasn't about winning, it was about development. We just wanted to encourage our players to engage and communicate with the coaches and staff. And that wasn't just about footy, it was just about everything. And we made it really clear every session that if you need to chat about anything, please come and see us. And we had a great time with the girls as well. They were really open, and it was great to get to know them better as well on and off the field. So it was fantastic. We wanted to create a positive and enjoyable learning environment. So pretty self-explanatory there, I suppose. And as Mon said, with doing the tunnel ball and all that sort of stuff, we had certain games that we played competition-wise that had a really fun element about them, but they actually still had some messages in them drills that were really important for our game style and all that sort of stuff. So it's up to you guys. Be really creative with that sort of stuff as well, and the girls they'll love every minute of it. We wanted to provide positive reinforcement and solution-based feedback. So the positive reinforcement side of things is pretty simple, but with the feedback, anytime it was of a negative type nature, we wanted to provide them with a solution. When we were playing, it was probably just you need to go harder at the footy, and that was about it. But obviously these days, just this generation as well, and it's really good that they want a solution to how to fix it, and you need to give them something. So if it's you're not picking the ball up in one grab, and you leave it at that, like how are they going to learn how to do that? You need to say, you need to bend over, you need to, and maybe even take them aside and do 5 minutes on the bump bag with them or something like that, and then obviously reinforce it when you see it done right. So continually challenge the girls to improve. Once again, mistakes are important learning opportunities. That was, as I said, that was a mantra through the whole pre-season, and to promote a team first attitude. Because we had the best girls from around the Geelong area all coming together, we thought there might be that type of competition for players to stand out, and right from the start we made sure that everybody knew that they're, you know, as long as we all play our role together, we'll all be successful. And it's obviously with the boys Falcons this year, because they've been really successful as a team, they've got 12 in the Vic Country side. So, you know, it's a bit of a message that you can use, that if the team goes really well, more of the players will get recognised as well. So, has anybody sort of sat down and done something like that? I'm sure you've probably done it in your head a little bit, but it is a really good exercise to just maybe write down. And if you're having a bit of an up and down time as a coach, it's something that you can sort of go back and just look at for the next session, and it can sort of readjust you a little bit to not get off track from where you wanted to get to, sort of thing. So yeah, if you get the chance, it's a really good thing just to write down some really basic goals as a coach. What we did early on was we gave the girls a feedback sheet to take home. I think it was after our 6th session. We got the girls to write down areas at training that they believe had been positive. Their minuses, write down areas at training that could be improved. And then we wanted them to come up with some ideas of how they can improve their issues. So it wasn't just about picking out what we were doing wrong, it was about actually providing a solution to them. And I've just got written up at the top there that it's a really good one as well as a coach to, after a session or after a month or whatever, just to ask them questions about yourself, how your trainings are going, and maybe honestly sort of assess them and try and readjust from there. The feedback that we got from the girls was the best I've seen from any time I've done any type of feedback thing from a playing group. And as I said before, girls are really good communicators. Some of them wrote essays, but it was a really good tool to use just to get a good insight into the way the girls are thinking, and also where they're at with their understanding of the game. So it was a really, really good tool for us. And we actually, from the feedback, we put together a bit of a training standards document, and we went through it with the girls one night and printed it off, and we got them all to sign it and put their numbers down and all that, and they thought they were fantastic. But it actually let us use these standards ongoing from then on, from a training point of view. There's probably too much there for you to read. I'm not going to go through it all now, but if anyone wants a copy of that or whatever, feel free to let us know as well. But it was just 4 key points with a few dot points underneath that, you know, like we work as a team by challenging ourselves and our teammates to continually improve. When we set a standard, we do not drop from it. Being inclusive of everyone by helping, teaching and encouraging our teammates. So really basic things, not specifically about football skills or anything like that, but just about the way they wanted to train and go about with their behaviour at training and everything. So that was one thing we did. And also attached with that feedback form was we tried to come up with a trademark. I don't know whether anyone's done trademark type things before in organisations, businesses and all that sort of stuff. We got the girls to write down 3 words that we would like to be described as in a perfect world. So how we would like to be described by our opponents at the end of the season. And once again, the feedback that we got from that was unreal. And then also what we got them to do from that was to write some statements down that went with these words. So at the end of it, we came up with, the girls came up with this. I put it together, but that was our trademark for the season. So we had relentless, united and committed. And then they were the statements that from their feedback we came up with. Pretty simple again. We never give up, we fight to the end. We provide 100% effort no matter the circumstances. United, we stand together as a team. So once again, just that team message all the way through. Never leaving a player behind. We encourage, support and respect each other. And then committed, we put our body on the line for the benefit of the team. Once again, team. And then the bottom one, we strive to improve and learn from our experiences. And once again, that goes back to that mantra of learning from your mistakes. We were lucky enough to win 4 out of the 5 games, and Every week, pre-game or on the Wednesday night when we had a meeting, that was the first thing that the girls saw. We put that up, and we would reflect on what we did really well the week before, and also talk about the things that we needed to do the next week based on that, pretty much. We did lose. We lost one game, and obviously, so we went down to this one at the end when we lost. We strive to improve and learn from our experiences. But even in that game that we lost, we performed all them values and behaviours in that game. We lost by 2 points, but every week the girls were able to measure their performance based on that, not by whether they won or lost, I suppose. So that was, and hopefully now that we've got that in place, next year when we come to pre-season, we might tinker with that a little bit, but it won't take us 2 months or whatever it took us to get to that point. And the next lot of girls, we'll have about 15, I think, that'll stay next year, and the other 15 or 20 that come in, they'll be able to come straight under that banner, and then 15 that have already been there can already drive that message for us. And because the girls come up with it, they're going to buy in on it. You know, the clubs always talk about players buying in. Well, when the players actually come up with the standards and the trademark, they're going to do it. So that's what we come up with. So I just wanted to finish. This was my favourite picture from the season. The smiles on their faces and the enjoyment that they got out of it was priceless. And our goal pretty much was to make sure that the girls left our program better people on and off the field, and I think we did a pretty good job of it. And I think the way we sort of went through the process of creating that trademark and the training standards sort of helped with that, and helped with the girls bonding and working together. So that's just about it for me. I just got that one as well. I'm not here to lecture you about your responsibilities or any of that sort of stuff, but I know from my experiences that, yeah, as a coach, you can have a really big impact on whatever players you've got under you, but especially with the girls, they're ready to learn. They've got so many great qualities that work really well from a football side of things, and also we can help them be better people in the future, be really strong and resilient. So so that's pretty much it. They're my details there. So if anyone wants to email me or give me a call or whatever, and I'm happy to go out to any club during the season as well and take a session, or even on game day, come and watch and help the coach or whatever it is. I've been going to a fair few games already, and the standard's really good. So it's great to watch. My daughter's playing under 15s as well and loving every minute of it. So sort of got a vested interest in it all as well. And there's also just a few websites, or I follow on Twitter, of just couple of them are coaches, couple of them of, Nathan Burke, one down the bottom there, changing the game, and just get on there on Twitter or whatever and follow some of them. They just sort of marry up with some of the stuff that I believe are pretty important as a junior coach. So that's it from me. So.
Coaches, I coach them 12 girls, and their enthusiasm is enormous. We probably have a problem with the skill set, where we try to introduce drills in that they sort of the skill level, like half and that. So, how much time do you spend on that skill development side of it, and then into other drills? I'll be trying to half it. But,
I tried over the summer. I thought about this a lot. Just kept a log of everything we did, and went back and measured it by minute those weeks. We had 15 athletes that had never played. 15 girls that have been footballers for a long time that went that fit. And another 15 that had played at a pretty elite level, but mostly outside as well. So it was really hard to get those related. We played a lot of mini games throughout the pre-season. One thing that I wanted to talk about before, we played 9 on 9 at training all the time. And
then they go and do some conditioning somewhere else. We've got some 9 on 9. So the best thing about footy is that there's 18 players. The girls got so many friends that play and they're loving that. But it's also the worst thing. I've got a little daughter that she's started as a 7-year-old playing under 9, Joey, and losing by 100 points every week. And there's 18 kids, and she touches them once or twice. She plays soccer on a Sunday morning, and they play 4 on 4, and she's always in the game, attached to anyone else. And I see her get dressed in her soccer gear 2 hours before the game. And this week she's going with her mum to visit friends when footy's on Saturday morning. It's real sad. So I find ways to let them play in small groups, lots, so they still feel like they're achieving along the way. The game can't be easy, but give them a chance to feel like the game with small numbers.
You play more from touch with them, get the ball off.
Like all our girls that had played footy before, they were even better playing footy because we found a way to do it, but they're playing against 18 all the time.
I'd say the same as well. Playing, even if you're trying to work on handballs, you just make a handball game. It's 4 on 4 or 6 on 6 or whatever. And, that's a really important way to.
And do the school competitive one, like school groups. Best on and just get the ball and
Selfishly, from a conditioning point of view, sometimes they're the best drills as well. So it's really intense for a really short period of time, and you get a lot out of it as well.
Question of, I coach older girls. Question of fairness. You might have 4 or 5 elite players and the rest much of a muchness. In game situations, how do you manage that? Or how are you supposed to manage it as a coach in terms of giving your good players opportunity to shine, but also bringing other players into the game? And girls are really strong. Girls are really strong on the issue of fairness.
And I think it's in that article there that they're more inclined to want fairness. We had that same situation. Even though we had the best girls in the region, we still had a fair variance of skill level and talent. And one of the things that helped us be a good team as well was that I spread them girls over the ground. I didn't have our best 4 players all playing midfield. And when our girls first came in, I asked just about every girl, what position did you play? And every one of them said I played in midfield because they were the best player. But I don't think even from their development point of view that they're all not going to be midfielders when they play seniors, and especially your most talented ones, to look at maybe where they're going to fit in at the top end or VFL level. If they're a sort of a 6-foot player, they might be better off as a half-back flanker or on back pocket or half forward flank. So try and spread your best players around the ground, and then that also brings your lesser players to learn and to receive the footy off them good players. And at the end of the day, it's at this underage level, it's not about winning. I reckon you're more likely to win because of that though. But it also brings your lesser lights in, and they learn from the better players and get good confidence from them players being around them. That's probably the only solution I have.
Just on that, Joe's not got exactly the same situation where we've got 2 or 3 girls that play ball footy and 15 their first year. And we're just encouraging those 2 or 3 to use all of those players. We've done the same, we've spread them out along the field and get them to give them the ball no matter what. To get them in the game. I'll never get any better when they're not in the game. So, and there's 3 or 4 good players know that, and they enjoy giving it to them. They know it's not going to come back. Doesn't matter.
That's exactly right. I think the last thing you said though, that those players know that's really important. That you're transparent with your group, because the girls are all over fairness, they don't miss. And if you've spoken about it publicly and they know why it's happening, they get on board really easy. It's fantastic to work with like that when they know why they're doing what they ask.
I think that spreading on how the under 12s, how we do the zones, is going to eliminate that profile of the best player in the best spot. Everyone's getting a fair go. If teams are doing it, you're supposed to rotate every quarter. It doesn't happen. You get some teams that stick their best players in. But by rotating them all through, as they get older, there's not going to be that one player that's just stuck in a ruck or just stuck in the forward line So as they get up to that age, 15s, 18s, they're going to be a lot more flexible when they come up to this level. Yeah. I can play middle, I can play rover, I can play back, wherever you want me. Yeah. I'm going to be flexible. It's the best thing that ever got brought in.
That's exactly right. And it still amazes me that you say that there's some coaches at that level, at that age group, still trying to win. It just it amazes me that you go to these and go to one of the coaches' conferences and all that sort of stuff, and that the message that I have to continue to deliver is that, and it just amazes me that there's people.
I'll put, like, they had one stuck in there, right? And I'll put my smallest girl, she was tiny, just to sort of show, like, you rotate. Yeah. You know what I mean? Just give them all a fair go, because they're all going to have a go. And the good thing that I found about it, and I love the most, is that there's no standouts. Every single girl, I've got 48 to 50 girls now, under 12s, and every one of them get a good crack at the ball. And it doesn't matter good, bad, or wherever they are, this is how we rotate it. They're all going home, getting to have a kick, having a shot at goal, having a go and ruck, every part of it. And I'm out in the ground running around, and I'll have goosebumps on the whole time I'm out there. It's the best feeling ever.
That's good. That's great.
I've just got one for Woody and sorry, what's just the load base on a girl's playing other sport, the amount of games you think should be played over a year? Because at the moment I think there's too much with all the other sports. I'm just wondering what you guys think the amount should be for a junior girl or a girls' football.
Mine's probably better qualified to answer on the total load stuff. Footy-wise, I think 20 is probably enough. 20 is a lot, so they can count the TAC and then the local season and maybe some school ones along the way. I think any more than that's too many. You know, with the history with the young AFL players I've worked with in the last sort of 5 or 6 years, they wouldn't get up over 18 in their first season. We make sure they did, but the continuity of training is important too, particularly at this young age. The other sports can help because the muscles aren't exactly the same. You know, the movement patterns are a little bit different and they complement what you do in footy. But too much of anything is probably,
I would just recommend just to keep him involved in all these different sports. So I know footy now is available, but keep them playing soccer, keep them doing everything else, basketball, whatever it is. Give them a massive range of sports as you can fit in, because the skill set and as we've talked about the different muscle groups and how that's all used is really powerful, and the resilience you get that through just having training all the time and that kind of thing is really, really powerful. And you can definitely tell for the guy or the athletes that or the kids that have done heaps of different sports, when they come into something, they're completely well-rounded. They're not just pigeonholed into something really specific. So that would be my recommendation.
I think on a little bit of a flip side, having a bit of practicality and having some rest days is still really important though at that age. So it's probably absolutely within reason. So you know the client that I don't like to treat the most is the kid that wants to play heaps of sport and is probably talented at a lot of sports and they're in a lot of rep teams and they come and they're doing 7 days of exercise a week and then they wonder why they're injured. So there is a bit of a fine balance. I totally agree, variety is crucial. We don't want to just pigeonhole someone into the same sport all the time, so variety is key, but rest is important.
Just a really quick one. With the girls, we find that when we take them to skills, their skills are okay, but as soon as we revert to competitive small games, they almost go straight, their default is their old kicking style, which are horrible, or they hold the ball wrong, or they just throw it up in the air and kick it. Do you think there should be more emphasis on us teaching them the skills, or at this under 12s, let's say, under 13s even, should they be just competitive, get the ball and then eventually it'll come to you?
It's pretty normal that that happens. So first, you don't need to question your coaching if that happening. You think, oh, I do the right thing. Like training drills, you've controlled it, there's not as many decisions to make. And as soon as decisions come, they get confused, they're tired mentally, and skills fall away. The young AFL players, they do it over and over again too. That's why it takes them 3 or 4 years to get normal. So that's normal, but I think you can graduate it a little bit, stage it, so just ramp up the pressure bit by bit until it looks more like a competitive or more competitive drill. So 1 defender, then 2 defenders, then 3, then equal numbers. Play some 4 and 4 games, so they know there's pressure coming, but they've got a bit of an idea of where it's coming from, rather than 18 on 18, and it just rise up the levels as you go. even within training sessions, but over the course of the year. Like, we need to compete, you've got to get used to it, but you can stagger it a little bit and give the girls more of a chance to achieve, I reckon.
Sorry. I'd just like to firstly thank Kate Gearing for being so patient with me this year and last year when we first started. Our under-19s team wasn't going to happen, and we had over 5 players, and then she's gone, you can do it, it's going to happen, and all that. Anyway, now we've got like 25 girls. So our issue is though, with our 19s is we have them starting, we have new ones every week. Like, and I will get a message on Saturday night, can I play tomorrow? And Saturday, and I've spoken to 2 other clubs that have been time keeping for 19s, because now I'm not teenage anyway, and they have their issue too, they're coming and going 19s. So in the injury side of things and skills and all this sort of stuff, if someone rings on a Saturday, and usually they're the netballers too, I've got mates, they want to come play, blah, 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 should they be training first before playing the next day?
Yeah.
Because our coach, they turn up and then what do they like, you know, all this sort of stuff. And netball's usually got really quite good ball skills. And what you were saying earlier with the court size, they just a bit like, wow. But this is our thing, yeah, they just come in each week. It's just growing and it's amazing and we're very excited. Some weeks we don't know where we're at because 19 is behind of 18 and then 11 turn off. There's a bit of that going on. But we're still working with 9, you know, it's, yeah, so I don't know whether to disappoint girls and say you need to have a week or 2 to train, you need to, like, do you do that or not? Or
We've done it, so we've got,
listening to all you tonight, I'm like,
we've got a 195 centimetre netballer that I'm dying to play. That's going to be great when she gets young. But she's hardly played before, and she played with Stu's team in Drysdale the other week and did really well, but until she's resilient enough to put the game, it's just not safe. So,
yeah, that's right.
You know, we're all going to hold ourselves back, but if you're in a situation where you need more players, or a player can come and fill in, in a perfect world,
and they're doing other sports.
Yeah,
at least a week. At least. Do a week then, I don't like.
Because I think the other thing too, just adding on to what Kim's saying, I mean, it's just, you know, we will have numbers of girls who just don't train at all, just maybe come to the game. Yeah. And then we'll come up against teams that are, like, you know, like just another level above what we are. And so their intensity and their attack on the footy and, you know, ability to use their body is double what our girls are. And yeah, I can see some real issues, you know, on the ground. So, but it's very difficult as a coach to say, listen, we're just not ready to be out there.
In a perfect world, you know, in 4 or 5 years' time, we'll get enough teams, graded competitions like the boys, they want to find their level at this stage. You've probably got to be really patient with that. But I'd be saying to the girls at the moment, to even train for a little bit, it's just not safe. It's just not that we don't want you, it's we want you for a long time. Yeah. We've just got to be a little bit patient.
Saying in basketball, netball, we're still training, we're doing that, but they're not doing,
Our question on the flip side is if they've played out on Saturday, do they like on Sunday and then how does it roll into Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and when they, as we talked about, getting that rest. So yeah, it's balancing that as well. Like if they're playing at a high level and you're job about to play with a bit of fun, then their friends would question something.
Yeah, we've got half the team that are really wanting to play.
We had a VFL player.
But no, it's like,
We've had a VFL player in the past that comes back from injury. The other thing we do too is they don't play a full game first week back. So play a quarter or 2 or 3 and work up to that over time too, which is one way to make them a bit more resilient.
From just a local level, and I've been involved with local footy for ages, and yeah, if someone turns up, I'll play them. And I'm talking about the boys side of thing, because you know you need just but you're not going to throw some tall netballer in the rough because she's tall. If you're going to actually, is that what you're going to do? Yeah, well, that's it. Oh, there you go. Yeah, but I'd probably be more inclined to just give them, if you haven't played before, put them in a forward pocket or something so they're out of harm's way a little bit, because I understand like locally that, you know, if you've got 15 there, 16, you probably...
What's your name?
We've got it, like, the kids aren't stupid too, like, the kids know whether they've got some chance to compare or not as well for the most part.
Yeah, so hence we win over next time, and they think it's awesome.
We must be doing plenty right.
On 15 there, they're training full time. It's that unbelievable.
Probably just a question for you, Jason. In regards to sort of grassroots levels, the young kids coming through, I mean, you know, we're doing the under 12s and it's really about capturing their interest. You know, they've got so many options and we just want to try and, you know, facilitate that sort of pathway for them and develop a love for the game. How does the Falcons have a contribution or a way in which you guys are kind of connecting with the grassroots where we can actually have some players come down and work with the girls to kind of develop that sort of
our
you know,
girls.
peer modelling,
Yeah.
that sort of thing where
I suppose our girls are back in the local competition now and at their own club, so it's probably a little bit hard for Torquay to come over to Geelong West or whatever, but we encouraged our girls at the end of our program to make sure that they went back to their clubs and were leaders at their clubs in regards to trying to help with training and all that sort of stuff. And as I said before, I don't know whether did you email the clubs or not? No, we wait until tonight. I'm more than happy to come out whenever it fits in my schedule. But and also, as I said, even on game day, if you sort of feel like you're making it up as you're going along, or you want a little bit of a hand on game day, I'm more than happy to come out. And over the next 12 months as well, there'll be more people out there on the ground as well. So yeah, we're trying to. It's only starting, so yeah. But I'm happy to come out anytime you like. Yeah, so and I'll come to your open day. So
Sorry, Jason, in relation to that, what we've done, we've got a couple of our girls, we've just split our controls into two teams. We've named them after two of our senior girls, one of them who happens to be with the developers, and we encourage them to go along if they can, train as hard as they're training since they time. But we've done the same with the boys, and now we're just starting with the girls as well to do that link. Yeah, there's also something to look up to, and we're trying to get the older girls. It's just hard, they're often got, you know, work and studying and all that, but when they can, we encourage them to go back and join in and just get a little goal, give them 5-10 minutes.
it's a profile of the game that to me, you know, all of a sudden it was on TV and my daughter and her girls were watching it on TV and all of a sudden they're like, I can do that too, Mum. Like, you know, and me growing up playing the game said, look, we didn't have that opportunity. And that was a real foreign thing. They couldn't understand that. So I feel like there's an opportunity, and that's where we've seen this groundswell because the kids have seen a little bit more of it on TV.
Yeah.
And I would just love to keep that momentum rolling, I suppose, in terms of, you know, the connections that they can make and the opportunities that they see happening from here.
Yeah, and I know from the Falcons side of things, Geelong, and I know this is the next level up, but Geelong have been really good from our point of view. We've got girls going to train, we've got a few more going to train Friday night, so the Geelong Footy Club have been really good in that regards from us, and yeah, we probably need to get out there as often as we can as well. But also from a culture side of things, from your own club, it's a really, and I know you guys have with your senior players help out and all that sort of stuff, so each club should be trying to do that. And I reckon, yeah, like I said, Grove Dale are doing that as well, so.
Yeah, well, I think nearly every club sort of got one or two Falcons girls and they could they involve their own. Because as you said, it's really hard to get a girl over and they're playing for another club, but you can use your own girls.
And that helps us develop our players as well. If they have to go and try and teach things to the next, when they come back to us, they already understand things, and yeah, it's a flow on all the way down. So yeah, definitely will be happening more.